record this. Okay, again, welcome everyone. We're going to be talking about the incident review of Muni Savyon and the case that happened earlier this summer in 2013. We just briefly went over some of the housekeeping, a little bit about myself. That's me. Feel free to contact me in any way. And the thing I want to mention again is this is a group discussion, so feel free to speak up, add points of view. I just showed you the name of the person. You could look up YWCA shooting New Hampshire, and then it'll pop up, or look up, add in the words Muni Savyon as well, and you could find it. Now, regarding all this, I just want to make one comment, if anyone's especially familiar with the case, that again, this is all gleaned from media reports, which has inherent difficulties. It could be wrong information, misleading. So even though we're dealing with a real case, I'm assuming that some of these facts are hypothetical, and also we don't have certainly we don't have all the information that's available. And so if we were doing a real investigation, we would try to dig up more info. But again, we're just trying to work with what we have. The point is to use this exercise for the practice of threat assessment practice. When we look at the threat assessment, try to imagine what we're going to do is we are going to be a threat assessment team, and what would be happening is we have an incident or a report or a concern or a threat. Somehow it gets to our attention, at which point we want to gather information. That's primarily done through either getting records, criminal justice records, court records, financial records, health records, whatever it might be, personnel records, and then also interviews, talking with people, maybe even hiring private investigators to dig up more information, depending upon the nature of the threat and the assets to be protected. And the resources available to the organization depends upon the extent and range of the investigation. The point is that as we gather information, we're going to be putting it into a matrix or a chart to sort of get a big picture of the issues, and then we're going to try to determine what the overall risk is. So that's sort of the process. We'll be using my threat assessment tool, but I'm not trying to sell anything. We could certainly, sell anything through this webinar, but we'll certainly try to just use it as a way to organize our data. And then certainly we can talk about security measures. Ideally, the idea is to look at the risk and then put the appropriate level of security measures depending upon that risk. Now, for your own organization, I do suggest that you have some sort of threat assessment team. Again, it's a little bit easier for larger organizations, but right now we're going to pretend that we're the threat assessment team, and there might be different people on this call with various levels of skill. Maybe you're security and tactical and sort of physical security focused and experienced. Maybe you're an attorney and you're more aware of risk management issues and liability concerns. HR certainly has their perspectives. The thing I want to emphasize here is that each person has their own perspective depending upon their profession, and that's their job, is to be aware of these concerns, nuances, and issues. But then there's also characteristics just based on who we are, our upbringing, our culture, our own perception. Because what we're essentially doing is we're picking up a fact, a bit of knowledge, and then we say, well, what does this mean? Does this mean anything to you? Is it a concern or not? As we move through this process. Now, broadly, when we look at threat assessment, we do want to consider a lot of different variables. Although we focus in on the subject or the potential assailant, saying, are they dangerous, quote unquote, that's important. But then we could also be looking at the target, about what are they doing to increase or decrease the risk? Are they aggravating the situation? Are they mitigating it? And then we can look at the environment where sometimes we're not really protecting. One way of thinking about it is not protecting people, but you're protecting a location, and this certainly comes into play. Even though I've shied away a lot of the sort of SEPTED kind of physical security measures, I think this case does raise a few issues that I want to converse with you and get your opinion on. And then that's my final slide. So we're going to switch over now to my threat assessment tool, and because usually I get timed out, and by the time I get to this slide, I decided just to start off with the login page. So I'm going to click in a user login, and that's my standard for my fooling around. And here are my previous cases. I'm going to create a brand new one, and as I mentioned, his name is Muni Savyon, and I did download his picture earlier. Where is he? There he is. And it gets put in there. We're going to say this is a client. And I'll get into the details of this in a little bit. The target is wife and son, and I'm going to just let this for now. So here we have our case. These are the previous incidents and characters that I've analyzed. But let's look at Muni. What we're essentially doing then is going to be filling in this chart as we gather information to see how we could have predicted this. What is this? Let me get into the case, if I may. Again, if you're Googling around, the last name is Savyon, S-A-V-Y-O-N, and it's the YWCA in Manchester. And if you Google that, you'll find tons of stuff. And if you find additional information, that's what this is a participatory event. Send me a link or send me the data bit that I could add as a factor. But let's go over the case. Essentially, we have a man, Muni Savyon, who is separated from his wife. It's unsure whether they're divorced or separated, but he has court-appointed custody visitations with his son at a YWCA. And so last August, he's there, and this isn't the first visit. There's been several, but according to the employee supervising the visitation, says he's acting like himself, and this is sort of annoying. Let me get rid of that. I'm not sure why that's popping up, but it was around 9 o'clock in the morning. He's looking normal, no noticeable weapons. He did not get wanded over by the metal detector. It didn't go with the metal detector, and we'll talk about that a little later. But as the employee is taking notes, he suddenly hears some loud bangs, and then he sees the man standing over his son, the 9-year-old boy, with a handgun, and the employee runs out. According to the surveillance video, that Savyon's is with his son, they're about almost an hour into the meeting, and the boy turns away, or the boy is back to him, and the man shoots his son in the back of the head, then shoots him 5 more times before shooting himself. So that's the incident that we're covering. Now, let's pretend we're in a time machine and we can go back and use our hindsight to say how this can be prevented. As a threat assessment team, instead of starting at the very beginning about his birth or the beginning of time, what we could do is go back to the incident and go from there. So go back to the original threat. So the initial, let's say we are the YWCA security team, and we are handling visitations, custody visitations, and we've got 2 clients, in a sense, or 3 clients: the wife, father, and son. And what happened is, what we know is that the man at some point in the previous year threatened to kill his son and himself, and or kill his wife. So that's in a separate article. So it was, before, he threatened to kill himself, and he stated that he had a gun. He tells his wife, "I've got a gun. I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to kill you, or I'm going to kill myself and our son." So, bam, I would put that under the threat category. So when we have these sectors, if you've just joined us with this graph, if you're new to these incident review things, we have this graph, and we're able to add a factor, and you could choose what section it goes under, such as history of violence, or their health conditions, or what's going on with their relationships, and then there's the essential threat. Now he says, "I'm going to kill you, or I'm going to kill myself and our son." Why don't we do this? I'll call this the threat. and then the source is the mother, and we have records of a charge. We know about this from the charge. Threatens to kill self and son or his wife. So let's have some fun, all of us together. And I've got this poll here, and what I'm doing is I'm going to ask you to rate that threat. Try to think of 9 as being very high and 1 being low, like he didn't really mean it, he's just joking, or 9 is, oh, this is very serious, we need to take it seriously. Hopefully you all could see the poll now, and it says that you can't see the poll. According to this, no, it says it's open, and oh, so you're responding, so obviously it's open. I'm going to give you guys a couple more seconds to enter in your data, and I'm closing it, and then I'm going to share it. And as we all agree, this is very serious, and so we're putting it to 9. Oh, just a little FYI, like I only have 5 options, so I can't go 1 through 10. I can only pick 1, 3, like the odd numbers. But I bet you would have picked 10 otherwise. So I click submit, and then there we go. You can see like this chart here is where we could figure out the big picture of the threat. And again, I don't care if you use my tool or not. You can do this on the whiteboard, on a scratch piece of paper, or come up with your own system. But the idea is gather your data. So that's a heavy thing. I'm going to kill you. He straight out says that. He states he has a gun, and he also states, oh, I forgot to add that, states he has a gun. Or he's going to kill his son. That's just, oh my goodness, it's horrible. Okay, so that's important. That's good to know. Now we're informed of that. Due to that threat, he was charged, but it was shelved. The criminal charges were dropped, or I'm not sure what really happened there. But what happens is that they say the family, the wife and son, get a domestic violence protection order, and they rule that he has to go to a batterer's intervention program, and that when he sees his son, it can only be done at supervised visitations at a visitation center. So you can't meet at Chuck E. Cheese or McDonald's. You got to go to an approved visitation center. I work with these centers a fair bit, so it's a very difficult job to do. Well, okay, I won't get into that. So there we go. I'm debating now whether to add. I don't think I want to add a factor that he's got a restraining order, that he went through the batterer's intervention program, and he only has supervised visits. I'm gonna put this out here. Again, I'm pretending that I'm the investigator. I would, if it was possible, I would want to know as an action step, it's not available, but is find out about the batterer's intervention program. Did he pass? If I could talk to the facilitators to get, their opinion. So I don't have this information. This has not been available through the program. But do you see that? I don't know if you're familiar, but when a man assaults a woman, typically instead of going to prison, they are given the option of completing a batterer's intervention program or abusers counseling program, where if they finish it, then the charges will be dropped. This is pretty routine. I would want to know, talking to the facilitators, did he embrace the ideas? Did he really participate and see the rights, the wrong that he made, and he's really making amends? Or did he just go through the motions, or was he bitter about it? And then I certainly would put that under status, or maybe history of violence, or maybe under threat, depending upon their response. Did he complete it? If he completed it, then maybe I'd give some points. If he quit and refused to go, then I would certainly make that as a bigger threat issue, and again, their opinion. So I won't create a factor, but you see, like, if I was really doing this, that's something I would want to know. Moving on. more about this individual. Let's say we're digging up more info about this individual. I'm trying to find the other factors. I had to do a quick change over about this person. I guess you're just going to have to believe me instead of me wasting your time going through the point. I don't know, does this mean anything to you? He ran, when you're digging up information, Googling around, that's the other thing you can certainly do is look at social media stuff. He was active in politics in New Hampshire, and he ran on the Libertarian ticket twice in New Hampshire and failed both times. So does that mean anything? I know running a campaign can be very expensive. I don't know. Oh, hey, I'm still you're still, I'm sorry about that. I had to show you, again, if I forget to show you the screens, let me know what's going on, and I'll show you, we put that threat thing right there. The fact that he ran for the Libertarian office and failed, just put failed seat. I'm just going to quickly add in stuff here. Failed to win election twice. And then we can assume probably lost a lot of money because it's very expensive to run elections. And I would put that under miscellaneous. And you know what, guys, just for interest in moving things forward, I'm going to put this around 5. Maybe you got different opinions. Maybe it means nothing to you. Maybe this is entirely irrelevant. It would go far out in the circle. Closer in is something more dire. I'm just, again, sometimes the information you're going to gather is quote unquote useless. Like it's not important. It doesn't mean much. Moving on, I do want to put out and I'm sorry, some things got lost in here when I had to do the switchover. Talking to his previous wife, he was married before, he had a previous marriage, and he had a good marriage with us. So even it ended in divorce, but she said that he was nonviolent. So other ex-wife testimony, how should I put this? Previous ex states that he was a kind, non-violent person, never expressed any violence, even though they went through a divorce. So I'm going to put that under relationships. Well, let's ask you, where do you think this falls? I'm going to do that, our little thing again. And the point I want to make is you're doing the assessment, you find out he was previously married, you talk to her, she says, no, he's nice guy, yeah, we divorced but for issues, but is he violent? No, he's not violent. And I'm sorry I wasn't able to find that article to show you. You just have to trust me that was stated. Okay, yeah, some people are putting that around there, so I'm going to close up the thing and then share with those results. And you all put it around 5, so I'm going to put this around 5. And there we go. Now you see that I'm putting it around there. And okay, let's. Oh, I got to put something in the source and storage. Okay. Ex-wife states that not a violent guy, so it's not a big deal, but it does have some concerns. Okay, I'll go with that. We mentioned the elections. The other point that I want to mention and get into is the contentious divorce. So he marries again, has a child, and it doesn't go well. And he's really upset about this. He's expressed many times to his folks that he's really upset about the, here I can illustrate it right here. He was upset over the age and wanted more time with his son. And he feels that his ex-wife, his second ex-wife, was a bad influence on their boy. So I'm sure, sadly enough, I'm sure you are all familiar with some difficult marriages. I mean, hopefully not personally, but I know you probably know of a few separations. What about that? So custody battles. Man's really upset, says his wife is a bad influence on their son. He only gets to see the boy at supervised visitations, doesn't get to take him out camping or, do things like that. Oh, this is an interesting point. Let me show you this. With your votes, we've got two folks saying it's a 7 and one person putting it a 9. Now, I've decided just for the sake of keeping things simple, just rounding that out, like averaging it out. But I mean, that's my executive decision to go with this. So as we talk about the custody issues, where is that? I'm going to copy that and put it in here. The point is about the relationships that he has going on, or that can possibly from their status, is one person said 9, the other person said 7. Let me show you. So I make the decision that I'm going to just be egalitarian or be fair and just make it an 8. The point I want to make here is if we were a real threat assessment team, this just shows you a little bit about how we got different opinions. Some people think it's very serious, some people think it's less serious. Now, how as a team do you decide its importance? Now, of course, you're going to have your own opinions and maybe it's not going to change, but when it comes down to setting up security measures, opening up the company checkbook and spending money, based on your concern about the threat, how does the group agree on the issues? Do you average things out? Is it like a jury where everyone must have a unanimous decision? You keep on talking till it's unanimous? This is a much bigger discussion about teamwork and about leadership and communication issues, but I want to point out to you how fundamental it is. There's not much difference between 7 and 9. I've seen threat assessments where people are like blowing it off, it's not a big deal. Other people are like, oh my goodness, are you crazy? This is a dire warning sign. This is a really important part regarding threat assessments when it's done in a team approach about how serious it is. So I put that right there regarding the custody. That's a huge point. Now, let's move it a little further. What's one other point that I forgot to say? Oh, it's August 7th. The other point that I wanted to make, where did it go, is his brother died. It was well known that he was very close to his brother, that Muni was very close to his brother. His brother was in Israel, and his brother passed away, and so he flew back to Israel to attend his brother's funeral, and when he came back, the rabbi, good faith leader, is in communication with him, and he says he's been really depressed about his brother's funeral. So I'm going to put that under relationships, but I want to ask your opinion yet again on the fact that someone he cared about very much, his brother, died, and he apparently had a very close relationship with his brother. So okay, I'm going to close it up, folks. Here we go. Okay, let me share the results. You put that again as very high as 9. Again, I'm sorry I can't give you a 10 if you want to give that option, but you all put that as a 9, meaning very serious. And that's an excellent point. So here we go. Here's the factor. I wrote brother right there, referring to the brother's death. I'm going to put this way up close to the center, demonstrating its importance. Whom he was close to. Rabbi states that he was really distraught. Oh my goodness, can I spell distraught now? No, of course I can't. All right, so hopefully you all could see this, right? Let me see the audience view. Yep, you got the view again. So under relationships again, we see he's lost his brother. And okay, a little education here. Please understand in threat assessments, I look at a lot of different factors such as their health, financial concerns, and then one is relationships. One is, do they have relationships that they can use as a backup? He's really upset. He can't see his son. If he had other relationships, maybe he started a new romance, and maybe the new romance is pregnant, there's a new child, or maybe she's got children that he can be close to. Those are all mitigating factors. Those are positive things. Maybe his brother was someone who he always lamented to and vented to get his frustrations out. And he loses his brother, and that's really disheartening. So I think it's right to say that this was a very important factor that a week earlier. The other thing we need to look at is a timeline issue. Again, the threat that he made was about a year ago, or more than a year ago. Other factors, losing the elections, then his brother dies. This is all adding up. One thing that I think my tool does not show is any sort of timeline, meaning a broad sort of view of how things are escalating, and that's something this does not show. And when you do threat assessments, do pay attention to timelines and events, because when things start clustering together, bad things start clustering, that is definitely a red flag. Now let's skip on to our next red flag, and that is that he purchased ammunition on August 7th, and at some point, regarding the gun that was used, we knew that it was originally purchased in Ohio back in '92 and in a private sale. It was sold in 2003. We're not going to get a discussion about gun control at this point. But if there's any way that you can know that he recently purchased ammunition, that he recently purchased a gun, again, let's hypothetically go with this. I'm just going to write gun. What does this mean to you, folks? The other important very question is, how would you know? Would it be that someone talked to you when you heard about it? I'm going to actually hold off on the poll because I got one other point that I want to make. That I only have one poll left. So a gun he recently bought. We know he had the gun, but he recently bought ammunition. To me, that certainly is a factor. We know that he just lost his brother. He's made previous threats. Now he's bought. I'm going to change this to ammo. And one factor is, how would you even know about it? But if there's any way that you could, there might be, the average person wouldn't have access to, whether someone purchased a firearm. Law enforcement would be able to know if there's a background check done on him to get the firearm. There's no way you would know that he got the ammo unless it came through like leakage, meaning someone went with him to the place, someone went to the gun range with him, he told someone, hey, I just bought this ammo. Again, the point is, this is all after the fact that it was found out. I put that under, hey, where did it go? I thought I created that thing. I'll have to create it again. Maybe I hit cancel. I'm going to move this under history of violence, because that's where I put that. Bought ammo. Again, I would fill this out a lot more in detail if I was really doing this. I'm just trying to quickly move through this program with you. So, lost brother, made threats in the past history, and now he's actually capable of. So one of the things when you look at threats, there's also details, timeline concerns, and then a very important part of naturally of any kind of threat is, are they capable of carrying it out? If I said I'm going to, nuke your house, well, that's probably unlikely. If I really meant, like a nuclear detonation, because how would I get my hands on such an item? If I say I'm a, 5'6", 117-pound guy, and I'm going to beat the heck out of a guy who's 270 and 6'3", well, I like to give it a shot, but I don't know if it's going to be possible. But if I say I'm going to shoot you, and then you happen to know that I got a gun and bought an ammo, that certainly makes the credibility much higher. Let's put the nail in the. I almost said nail in the coffin. Let's give you the worst part. Where is it? I think I'll put it under here. Sadly enough, he sends out an email earlier that day. So hours before the killing, he details the plot to kill his son and himself to his neighbors. In the email states, one important thing you should know, there's nothing that you or anyone close to me could have done to prevent this tragedy. That's very interesting. And you need to know why I did this. Never mind, the man is insane, which is interesting. He refers to himself in the third person. Bam. Again, we don't have the verbatim. I did try to look for the actual email itself, like the transcript of the email, and I couldn't find it before our meeting today. But now she will be left alone with the terrible sadness that her only son's been taken from her, a sadness that I'm very familiar with. All right, I know this is a no-brainer, folks, but let's throw it out here. This email was sent out to neighbors. If by any chance the neighbors, you got this information that someone, through the investigation, that it was leaked back to you saying this guy's planning to kill, exactly, so that's where everyone's saying gross, tremendous, horrible, without a doubt, obvious threat. I'm going to just call this factor the email that went out. Again, it came from neighbors. Emails stating his plan. And also words like, now she's going to know the loss that I've lived with, things like that. We're not going to get into the psychology right now regarding this issue, but you can't get any more clear about that. I'm going to put this under threat, and I'm going to put it right at the center. Boom, what we see is a big cluster now. You didn't get to see me do that. I created it, and I put it right here. If you could see email that went out, I put it right there. I am changing the UI to be a little bit friendlier, by the way, so just talked to the developer this morning. Let's pause and sit back and look at this big picture that we've got here. What do we got? We've got a failed election. We have an ex-wife saying he's not that dangerous. We have very ugly custody issues. We know he bought ammo. There's a threatening in the past stating he's going to kill himself and his son. And then there's a direct email saying, I'm doing it. A couple of points here. When a threat is made to a colleague or a neighbor, an associate, an acquaintance, that's sometimes referred to as leakage. So it's not like, hey, I'm going to kill you, but it's like, I'm going to kill my wife. I'm not threatening you, but I'm telling you what my intentions are. That leakage sometimes is very, very credible because people talk about what they're going to do. Obviously, the unspoken point is, why the heck didn't anyone who received that email do something? We can only assume, and then I'm just trying to be generous here, that people did not get the email. It was sent, let's say, at 6 o'clock that morning, but no one opened that email until after the event. I sure hope that was the case. However, when this sort of leakage occurs, I take it pretty seriously, and that's why not only it's given the other factors, but the fact that he told people in this manner is a big issue. You often see other suicidal ideation preparations, things like, hey, Joey, you can have my CD player, or Deborah, you can have my car, that sort of planning, or hey, can someone come by and take care of my cat? That sort of suicidal planning is very, very serious, and is what I would label as leakage. So very broadly, I think we're all scared, we're all sort of terrified. If it was all along with that threat, unfortunately for visitation centers and domestic violence agencies, it's part and parcel. It's common that there's threats made. The fact that he got a gun jumped things quite a bit. The fact that he lost someone very close to him, I would have raised more concerns. And then if in any way, of course, if we happen to know that this email went out, then that would certainly be a law enforcement 911 sort of thing, where we would get law enforcement involved as soon as possible. Any comments? Golly, I'm talking my head off here. Does anyone want to say anything? I did want to address a separate point. about the environment. Where did it go? Okay. Regarding the environment, meaning doing the threat assessment for the facility about how vulnerable it is. Sadly enough, the YWCA recently had some budget cuts and lost some security guards. So previously they had security guards. They did not anymore. They did have a handheld metal detector that was used before, I suppose, by the security guards when there's visitations. All visitors would get wanded, if I can use that term. They would go through the metal detector process to see if they had any firearms. He had the gun in a briefcase. They would have naturally gone through the briefcase. Any good security guard in this sort of environment would do that. It was not done in this case, and it said that they had become loose on the policy since the security guards were let go due to funding cuts. I'm not blaming the agency at all. It may sound like that, but no. The other factor that stood out to me from this article was one worker says, even if they did, so I'm trying to imagine some social worker type, someone who's got a BA in psychology, and I'm not trying to dismiss them, but they're social workers, they're therapists, they're used to working with child art therapy folks. You're now given this job, well, you got to wand them and do the search, and so whoop, it goes off, and oh my goodness, or you go through their bag and you find a gun. Now what? One worker says they weren't sure what to do even if they caught the person with the gun. I do have to fault. It may be speculated that administration, given the nature of their work doing supervised custody visitations, could have had a policy, and if they had a policy with this one worker, the training was insufficient because the worker states that they did not know what to do. So A, is there a policy? B, was the policy properly informed out to the staff? Yes, if I was doing a security assessment for this facility, I would of course do surveys and focus groups with the employees, and of course review their policies and procedures, and this would have stood out to me as a concern. I don't, within my threat assessment tool, really, maybe I need to create a third or another pie thingy showing the issue. But, oh, by the way, under custody, I think I would move that under the nature of the grievance. So let me move that to there. But, we've got to consider, of course, that the environment that occurs. Yes, it's contentious. Yes, it's all. Think about like mental health facilities for like violent offenders. Of course, there's a great risk for violence, but you put a lot into the security controls to reduce that risk. One of the points, and I respect this, I really do, is that the YWCA's as the sole visitation site for children. Remember, little toddlers and such go there. They wanted to create a home-like atmosphere. This is in another article that I read. And so they don't want it to feel like a prison, and they don't want the kids to be patted down and watch daddy get with his hands on the wall and do like cavity searches and stuff like that. But there's this real balance of keeping it homey, trying to keep it friendly, and then also addressing the security concerns. This is, of course, a big national conversation about the TSA and stuff like that. But weighing that is a real challenge. If I may say, I did a consultation for a large state agency where a man was murdered, a manager was murdered at a field office. And I talked to the secretary, and we talked about metal detectors. And the secretary was adamant about not putting in metal detectors because the person really did not like the connotation, the sense of like this place is a prison or in lockdown in this hostile environment. They wanted the public to come in and feel like this is, for them, and they're not being treated as criminals. And I really do respect that person's viewpoint. More to the point is, this is one argument I have about metal detectors. And folks, if you disagree with anything I say, go ahead and write it up. So yeah, I'd love to hear what you think. Regarding metal detectors for any organization or facility, okay, so that goes off. They got a gun. What are you going to do? Metal detectors are awesome if you got security and armed guards, but if there is the firearm, you could be, in a sense, limiting the fact that people bringing in guns, carrying guns, you want to reduce that risk, and I respect that. And that's actually a very important point. But if people are intending to commit violence, and I would agree with, especially with that email that went out, the guy came in there planning to die. A metal detector would not have stopped this. That's my viewpoint. And I welcome any thoughts to the contrary. So when we broadly look back at this, weeks going out from the event, I'd say it's a standard case. I raised my concern about the brother dying. If I was able to, had the resources and time to find out about the ammo, then I would have raised it certainly higher. And if I knew about the threatening email that went out hours before, that would have been a 911 response. So that's where I stand with reviewing this case. Any other views, please let me know. By the way, we're here just talking, but if you're really using this tool, then you can certainly use the comment section to share, because we're not maybe in a live meeting together, but you could track your concerns and thoughts in here. Action steps could identify things that need to be done. So yeah, that's some ideas right there. Folks, that's sort of the presentation. We are right about that 45 minutes. I just want to thank you for attending. Again, if you want to use that threat assessment tool, send me a note, send me an email, or send me a note right now in questions, and I'd be glad to set you up with a free account to try it out. The other tool that I've got is this threat assessment, this e-panic button. If you look down at the bottom right of my screen, oh, that's right, I switched my account. You can have any number of buttons. So I just was doing some testing earlier, so I created one like this. This button could say gun, it could say get me coffee, it could say I need a hand. You can have 5 buttons. One button for I just need support, to a button stating I'm in danger and being threatened. I just have this one button. When you click it, you get a pop-up, it booms, you hear the little alarm, boom, boom, boom. Let me stop that actually. There we go. And it says what the nature of these, actually, as you can tell, that's gibberish because I just quickly typed it in, but this message could be anything you customize, such as help, I need a gun, or I need support, or that Muni guy is here, whatever you want to put in. And this identifies the sender. And this pop-up goes to anyone you want within your network. Along with this pop-up, also emails and text messages go out. If I turn on my webcam, I'll show you my text. My email, it's probably filled with stuff, so I'm not going to show my email right now, but I got an email as well when this alert thing's sent off. So if you're interested in this, again, this is free to try out too. Just send me an email, and I'd be glad to hook you up with this e-panic button. But folks, a lot's going on, including me not eating breakfast or lunch, so I'm going to go do that. I hope everyone's doing really great. I hope that there's no more cases. The one final thing I want to show you, if you're not familiar, I do have this website called the Rampage Report. There's the URL up there. And if you are interested in cases of workplace violence, school violence, random acts of violence, I do have this map, this interactive map sort of showing incidents that occur. So, for instance, this one right here was over in Myrtle Beach. This happened last month. You can click on it, you get the basic fact right there, you click on it, and then, oops, oh, well, there it goes to the redirect of the case. So you could follow up with incidents. If you're interested in certain types of cases, I do have a filter in here that says only coworker, or only domestic violence cases, or only client patron related. This incident with the YWCA I put under client and patron, even though it was a domestic issue, the violence was really from a client, and so that's why I would put under that category. So you're able to categorize this. And then if you just don't want to use the map, you could also look at this table right here of incidents, and then here are my most recent cases. Sadly enough, I keep filling this in. This is a very interesting case that I want to find out what happened there. But maybe if I find out more and there's lots of warning signs, we'll do the next incident review on that incident. But in the meantime, folks, I want to thank you, and I think we got one person left. Before we go, we got to say one thing. Excuse me for getting sappy, but we should just take a second just to recognize that a 9-year-old boy It's a 9-year-old boy died out of the sick and disgusting selfishness of one pig. And that's just, why we got to keep doing the work and work harder and do better so we could stop these things from happening. All right, that's it, folks. Stay safe. If there's anything I can ever do, you know how to reach me. I'd be glad to share any of my resources or, share with you any trials of any of those tools that I showed you. Okay, everyone, stay safe, everyone. Bye-bye.